I met the millionaire doctor on the night. I felt like the poorest woman in New York. The Plaza Hotel ballroom looked like a scene from a movie. Crystal chandeliers, gold details on the walls, a string quartet playing in the corner, women in gowns that probably cost more than my yearly rent, men in sharp tuxedos who smelled like money and old power. And then there was me. I stood near a tall wall of white roses, holding my small black thrift store clutch with both hands like a shield. My blue dress was simple and clean, but it was not designer. I knew it. Everyone else knew it. I could feel the eyes on me, sliding over my dress, my shoes, my hair, weighing and measuring every cheap detail. I was only here because the bride, my best friend Lily, had begged me. We grew up in the same small apartment building in Queens, sharing old magazines and dreams. She had fallen in love with the heir to some giant hospital foundation and somehow landed in this glittering world. "You have to come," she had said. "You're my family, Emily." So I came. And now I stood alone, watching people laugh and drink champagne like it was water, wondering how fast I could leave without hurting her feelings. I tried to act like I belonged. I took a glass of sparkling water from a passing waiter and pretended it was normal to stand under a chandelier the size of my whole kitchen. I told myself to relax, smile, blend in. It did not work. "Excuse me," a low male voice said behind me. I turned, hoping it was someone normal. It was not. It was a tall man in a tuxedo with slicked back hair and a red face. His eyes were glassy. He had the heavy smell of whiskey on his breath. He looked me up and down in one slow, rude sweep. "I don't remember seeing you before," he said. "Are you with catering or housekeeping?" His friends behind him snickered. I felt heat rush to my face. "I'm a guest," I said, my voice tight. "I grew up with the bride." "Ah," he said, like that explained something ugly. "That side of the family." His eyes dropped to my shoes again. "Sweetheart, if you're going to sneak in here, at least borrow a decent dress next time. Be a doll and get me another scotch, will you?" He snapped his fingers at me. For a second, I could not speak. The insult hit like a slap in front of a room full of strangers. My fingers dug into my clutch. My throat burned with shame and anger. I wanted to tell him off. I also wanted to cry. Instead, I turned away, ready to escape to the bathroom, hide in a stall, and maybe never come out. That was when I felt it. A warm hand closed gently but firmly around my wrist. I froze and looked up. He was standing there as if he had stepped out of another, better movie. Tall, broad shoulders under a perfect black tuxedo. Dark hair that was neat but still a little unruly, like he had pushed his hands through it too many times. Strong jaw. Steel gray eyes that saw everything and missed nothing. I knew who he was at once. Everybody in New York did. Dr. Henry Montgomery, the millionaire neurosurgeon, the hospital hero, the man from magazine covers and charity articles, the man my best friend's new family talked about like he was some kind of god. Right now, that god was looking at me like I was the only person in the room. He ignored the drunk man behind me completely. His body shifted, placing himself between us, his back like a wall. For a moment, all I could see was his face and the soft shine of the chandelier in his gray eyes. He leaned in close, so close I could feel the warm brush of his breath against my ear. His voice came out low and calm, but there was a sharp edge under it that made my heart jump. "Pretend to be my wife," he whispered. I pulled back a little, staring at him. "What?" "Play along," he said, eyes locked on mine. "Right now?" "I'll explain later." The room seemed to go quiet around us, though I knew the music still played. I could sense the drunk man and his friends watching. I could feel other eyes starting to turn toward Henry, because he was the kind of man people always noticed. I can't," I stammered. "I don't even know you." His hand squeezed my wrist, not hard, just enough to ground me. "You are doing fine," he said softly. "Trust me for 5 minutes." Something in his eyes made my heart slow and speed up at the same time. There was power there, yes, and control, but there was also something else. A kind of tiredness. A trapped look that matched how I had felt all night. Before I could say no, he turned, pulling me gently but firmly to his side. His arm slipped around my waist like it belonged there. The simple contact sent a hot shiver up my spine. "Mother," he called out, his voice smooth and clear over the music. "There you are." A tall woman in a silver gown turned toward us. Her hair was perfect. Her pearls were real. Her eyes were sharp enough to cut glass. Beside her stood a beautiful blonde woman with an empty smile and perfect posture, the kind of woman born in diamonds. Henry, his mother said, eyes narrowing when she saw me. And who is this young lady? We were just talking about you and Catherine. I am sure you were, Henry said calmly. He pulled me a little closer. I wanted you to meet my wife. Emily. The word hit me like a shock. Wife. I felt the crowd closest to us go still. The drunk man behind us choked on his drink. His friends fell silent. His mother's face went pale, then red. You're what? My wife, Henry repeated. We married quietly a few weeks ago. We planned to tell you after the honeymoon, but since you were all talking about my future, it felt like the right moment. He turned to me with a charming smile, and for a second I forgot to breathe. He lifted my hand and kissed my knuckles. His lips were warm against my skin. Right, darling, he said softly, eyes holding mine in a way that made it hard to remember that this was fake. I swallowed, my heart pounding so loud I was sure his mother could hear it. Yes, I managed, my voice shaking just enough to be real. We wanted to keep it a secret. For a little while. A murmur moved through the people around us. Phones came out. Someone whispered, he got married. Someone else said, who is she? His mother stared at me like I had just crawled out from under the catering table. The blonde woman beside her blinked, her polite smile frozen in place. Well, his mother said at last, her tone tight. This is unexpected. Henry smiled, but I felt the tension running through his arm. Life is full of surprises, he said. For the rest of the night, we stayed in the strange bubble he had created. He did not leave my side once. His hand rested on the small of my back as he introduced me to donors, doctors, and board members. He pulled out my chair, poured my water, listened when I spoke, as if I were actually his partner and not some fake wife pulled out of thin air. We danced. His hand held mine, his other hand firm at my waist. The world blurred into soft lights and music. For a moment, it felt real. Too real. I do not understand, I whispered as we moved across the floor. Why are you doing this? He looked down at me, his gray eyes softer than before. Because you looked like you needed saving, he said quietly. And so do I. Later, when the music faded and the guests began to leave, he walked me out to the front of the hotel. The night air was cool against my hot skin. The city lights glowed around us. This is where the fantasy ends, I said, hugging my clutch tight. My feet hurt. My heart hurt more. Thank you, I guess, for saving me from that jerk. He studied me for a long moment, his face unreadable. It does not have to end here, he said. He took a card from his pocket, a simple white card with his name and a single number. He placed it in my hand, his fingers brushing mine with a slow, careful touch. I will call you, he said. Tomorrow. Why? I asked, my voice a thin whisper. We already pretended. You made your point. Your mother hates me. Your rich friends are confused. You got what you wanted. His jaw clenched, and for the first time that night, I saw something raw flash in his eyes. Not control. Not charm. Something darker. I have a proposal for you, Emily, he said quietly. One that could change both our lives. My heart stumbled. What kind of proposal? He stepped a little closer. I could see the faint line of a scar near his temple, the tiny details that magazines never showed. Pretend to be my wife, he said again, this time slow and clear. Not just for one night. For a year. I stared at him, the city sounds fading into a dull roar in my ears. A year. I repeated. Why would I ever agree to that? Because I need you, he said. And because I can give you what you need most. But there is one condition. The way he said those words made a cold shiver slide down my back. One condition. What condition? I asked, my voice barely a breath. He held my gaze, his eyes hard and serious now. If you agree to this, he said, you must promise me one thing. You can never fall in love with me. I laughed when he said it. I could not help it. You want me to fake being your wife for a year, I said slowly. And your condition is that I never fall in love with you. You are insane. His face did not change. I am serious. Then you are seriously insane, I said. A black car pulled up to the curb. A driver stepped out and opened the door, but Henry did not move. He just watched me with those cool gray eyes that had felt warm a few hours ago on the dance floor. You will understand tomorrow, he said. I will call you at 11. Do not ignore it. I have work, I said. Then I will meet you at work, he replied. He got into the car before I could answer, the door closing with a soft click that sounded way too final. The car slid into traffic and disappeared into the river of lights. I stood there on the sidewalk, in my cheap blue dress and aching shoes, holding a card I did not want and a question I could not stop thinking about. Never fall in love with me. Who says something like that? The next morning, life snapped back to its hard, gray shape. There was no chandelier, no soft music, no warm hand on my back. There was the alarm going off at 6, my small kitchen, my mother's cough from the bedroom, and a stack of unpaid bills on the table. I made coffee that tasted like burnt water and checked my phone. Nothing from him. Good. I told myself the whole thing was some rich man game, some strange way to annoy his mother. I told myself he would forget about it like people forget about a party trick. At 10:30, I was in my uniform at the diner where I worked, tying my apron, trying not to think about fancy ballrooms. By 10:45, the place was packed with the lunch rush. By 10:55, I had forgotten about him. Almost. At exactly 11, the diner went quiet. It was like the air changed. Forks stopped in midair. People turned toward the door. I did too. He was standing there, framed in the doorway, wearing a dark suit that fit him too well for this cheap little place. The open sign and the neon coffee cup blinked behind him, making him look like he had stepped through a wrong door into the wrong world. Somebody near the counter whispered, "Is that the brain doctor from TV?" He did not look at them. He looked straight at me. "Emily," he said. His voice cut through the clatter and chatter like a knife and somehow felt soft at the same time. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. My manager's jaw dropped too. "Do you know him?" She breathed in my ear. "Kind of," I muttered. "I think." He waited while I slid my tray onto the counter with shaking hands and handed my tables to another server. Then he led me to a small booth in the back, away from the curious eyes and phones that were trying very hard to look like they were not recording. He did not order anything. He just folded his hands on the table and looked at me like I was a patient and he was about to deliver bad news. "I looked into your file," he said. "My what?" "Your life," he answered simply. I ran a background check. Anger flashed through me. "You what?" "You can't just look into my life because we danced one time. That is creepy. That is not okay." He did not flinch. "You are 26, he said. "You live with your mother in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens. She has congestive heart failure. 3 hospital stays in the last 2 years. You work here full-time and do night shifts at a grocery store 2 blocks away. You are behind on rent and on 3 credit cards. There is a shut-off notice from the power company in your mailbox." Each fact landed like a stone. Heavy, cold, true. My eyes burned. "You had no right to dig through my life like that." "I had every right," he said quietly. "If I am going to make you an offer, I need to know you are the kind of person who will see it through. I need to know your motivation." "You mean you needed to know I am desperate?" I snapped. He met my glare without looking away. "Yes." My breath hitched. The worst part was that he was not wrong. I was desperate. Every bill on our table at home was proof. Every cough from my mother's room was proof. "What do you want from me?" I asked finally, my voice rough. "And do not say pretend to be my wife, like it is a small thing." He reached into his leather briefcase and took out a thin black tablet. He placed it between us and slid it toward me. The screen was already on, filled with small black letters and tight lines. "This is a contract," he said. 1 year. You will act as my wife in public. You will attend events, fundraisers, hospital functions, dinners, family gatherings. We will live in the same residence, but in separate rooms. You will keep up the story we started last night." My fingers hovered over the screen. "Why?" "My last marriage was a disaster," he said flatly. "My ex-wife is about to release a book about it. My personal life is about to become a circus. The hospital board does not want a scandal attached to their shining star. My mother wants me married to some socialite she can control. I need a wife who will not fall apart, who understands the deal and sticks to it. I need stability. On paper. And in return," I said slowly, "what do I get?" He looked right into my eyes. "Every single one of your debts paid," he said. "Your mother moved to a private room at Montgomery General. The best cardiac team in the country. Every medication covered. Every test. Every treatment. Forever. A small salary for you. A clean slate when the year is over." The diner noise faded to a low hum. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was too much. Too big. It sounded like the kind of thing people promise in dreams, not in cheap vinyl booths. "There has to be a catch," I whispered. "There is," he said. "That is my one condition." He tapped the tablet. The screen jumped to a section with a bold title. Emotional attachment clause. The words made my skin prickle. "Read it," he said. I forced my eyes to focus. The clause was written in very clear, very simple language. It said that our agreement was business only. It said that if either one of us developed real romantic feelings for the other, we had to say it out loud. At once. The second we admitted it, the contract would end. No warning. No grace period. All payments stop, I read out loud, my voice shaking. Medical coverage stops. Housing stops. Everything stops. Any future help is canceled. Correct, he said. So if I fall in love with you and I tell you, I said, my mom loses her care. Yes. And if I fall in love with you and lie about it, I become the kind of person you hate, because you hate lies. Yes, he said again, his eyes steady on mine. And if you fall in love with me and admit it, I pushed, you lose your perfect safe fake marriage, and you're bored and your mother get to say, I told you so. Something flickered in his eyes, there and gone. Yes. I stared at the screen. It was a trap. It was a lifeline. It was both. You made a rule, I said slowly, where the punishment for having a heart is losing everything. It is a safeguard, he answered. Love makes people foolish. I cannot afford foolish. Not in my work. Not in my life. This way, we both know the limits. We both stay safe. Safe. The word felt cold. I thought of my mother's tired face. The months of fear. The nights I lay awake, counting numbers that never added up. I thought of that man at the wedding, snapping his fingers at me like I was nothing, and of Henry stepping between us without even knowing my name. 1 year. Why me? I asked one last time. Because you were smart enough to know you did not belong in that room, but strong enough to stand there anyway, he said. Because you did not fall apart when that man insulted you. Because you looked at me last night like you saw the man, not the money. Because you have something to fight for. You will not walk away halfway through. He sat back, his hands steady. This is my condition, Emily. Take the contract and the risk, or walk away now. If you walk away, I will still pay your rent for 3 months and clear your smallest credit card. Consider it payment for last night. 3 months of rent. A lifetime of care. Or nothing. My thumb hovered over the digital line where my name waited. My hand shook. If I sign this, I whispered, I am betting everything that I can spend a year with you and never fall in love with you. Yes, he said. That is the bet. My heart already knew the answer. I signed anyway. Moving into his place felt like walking into a different planet. One day I was in our small apartment in Queens, where the hallway always smelled like old soup and someone's laundry. The next day, I was standing in a glass elevator shooting up the side of a building that touched the clouds. Henry's penthouse was all white walls, tall windows, and clean lines. The city spread out below like a map. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. No TV in the background, no neighbors arguing, no cough from my mom's room. My mom had already been moved to her private room at Montgomery General. When I visited her that morning, she looked smaller in the big bed, but her face was relaxed in a way I had not seen in years. She had her own nurse, her own TV, her own bathroom. Emily, she said, squeezing my hand. I don't know what you did, but thank you. I lied and said I got a better job. She did not push. She was too tired and too happy. Now I was here because of that lie and that contract. Henry met me in the living room. He looked like he always did. Perfect suit. Straight shoulders. Calm face. If he felt anything strange about bringing a waitress into his home as his fake wife, he did not show it. Your room is down this hall, he said, nodding toward the right side of the place. East wing. Wing, I repeated. You say that like this is a castle. He did not smile, but there was a tiny soft line at the corner of his mouth. It might feel that way for a while, he said. My room is on the other side. West wing. There is a guest room and an office in between. We keep a clear distance. It is better that way. Better for the condition, I said quietly. Yes, he said. Better for that. My suite looked like something from a hotel website. Big bed. Soft carpet. A bathroom with a tub the size of my old kitchen table. It was beautiful. It was also cold, because it was not mine. None of this was really mine. I was just renting a life. 2 days later, I learned what it meant to be his wife in public. He knocked on my bedroom door in the evening. When I opened it, 3 women were standing behind him with rolling cases and garment bags. This is your style team, he said. We have a hospital gala tonight. "And what?" I asked. "Fundraiser," he said. "Very important. Smile, let them work." They moved around me like a storm. Hair, makeup, nails. They zipped me into a long dark blue dress that fit like it had been made for me, because it probably had. When they were done, the woman with the makeup brush stepped back and smiled. "There she is," she said. "Mrs. Montgomery." The words made my stomach twist. When I stepped out into the hall, Henry was waiting. He was in a black tuxedo again, this one even sharper than the one from the wedding. For a second, he just stared. His gray eyes moved from my hair to my face to the dress. Slowly, carefully, like he was taking in a painting and trying not to show that it impressed him. "Well?" I asked, my voice suddenly small. His jaw flexed. "You look acceptable," he said. I rolled my eyes. "Wow. Try not to faint from excitement." He looked away, but I saw something like relief pass over his face, as if he was glad I still pushed back, glad I did not melt just because he complimented me. In the car, his driver asked, "The hospital, sir?" "Yes," Henry said. Then he glanced at me. His hand rested on the space between us, fingers slightly curled but not touching. "Remember our role," he said. "We are married. We are close. But we are not actually close. Do you understand the difference?" "I think so," I said. "We act like we are in love without ever being in love." "Exactly," he said. The ballroom for the gala was different from the wedding, but the feeling was the same. Expensive, bright, loud. People turned to look when we walked in. People always turned to look at Henry. Tonight, they looked at me too. "Smile, Emily," he said under his breath, his hand warm on the small of my back. "You are doing fine." I smiled. Or tried to. We moved from table to table. He introduced me as my wife. So many times the word began to sound strange and heavy. He told the same small story about how we met. A charity event. A quiet connection. A whirlwind romance. None of it real, but his voice was so smooth I almost believed it myself. Sometimes he leaned down to whisper something in my ear, a quick comment about someone's tie, or the way a board member laughed too loud. His breath touched the side of my neck. I would laugh, for real, and the people around us would smile and nod like they were watching a sweet moment. We were good at this. Too good. His mother arrived halfway through the night. Eleanor. Every inch of her in silver and diamonds. She walked toward us like a queen with a cord around her. "Henry," she said. "Emily." My name came out sharp, like she was testing it, and did not like the taste. "Mother," he said. His hand tightened slightly on my waist. "You look nice tonight." She studied me from head to toe. "At least this time she is dressed for the room," she said. "I suppose that is something." I waited for him to get angry. He did not. He only smiled, that smooth, cool smile he used when he was hiding things. "Emily is the best thing that has happened to me," he said. Then, in front of his mother, he pressed a soft kiss to my cheek, his lips lingering just a second too long. Heat shot through me. My eyes fluttered closed for a heartbeat. The room spun a little. When I opened them, his mother was watching us with a narrow, thoughtful gaze. "Well," she said slowly, "maybe I was wrong." On the ride home that night, the air in the car felt thick. My cheek still burned where he had kissed it. It had been for show. It had to be for show. So why did my hands shake in my lap? "You did well," he said quietly. "The donors liked you. The board loved you. My mother does not hate you as much. That is a win." "That kiss," I said, staring out the window at the blur of lights. "It was a good performance." There was a long pause. "Yes," he said, "a performance." We both heard the hesitation. We both pretended we did not. After that night, the days blurred into a strange double life. In public, we were perfect. We held hands. We shared quiet smiles. He opened doors, pulled out chairs, touched my back when we walked. We were the story people wanted to see. The cold, brilliant doctor and the warm, grounded wife who made him human. In private, he was careful. Too careful. We ate dinner at the same table, but he kept the talk light. The news. The hospital. My mom's progress. He never asked about the way I felt lying awake in a bed that was not mine. I never asked about the shadows under his eyes when he came home late. 1 week, then 2. The pressure grew. Keeping the act going took energy. Smiling when I wanted to scream. Standing straight when I wanted to curl up and sleep. Then my body began to give up. It started with a scratch in my throat and a dull ache in my head. I told myself it was just stress. I took some pills and kept moving. There was always another event. Another dinner. Another set of eyes to fool. One afternoon, I was standing beside Henry at a small reception at the hospital. The board chairman was talking about a new wing. Cameras flashed. My heels pinched. My head pounded. The room felt a little too hot. "Mrs. Montgomery," the chairman said, turning to me with a smile. "How are you finding your new life with our star doctor?" I opened my mouth to answer. The room tilted. The faces around me blurred. The chandelier lights stretched into long, bright lines. I grabbed the edge of a table, but my hand did not feel strong enough. "Emily," I heard Henry say, his voice sharp in a way I had never heard before. Not calm, not controlled, scared. The next second, the world went dark at the edges. I felt his arm around me, strong and steady, pulling me against his chest. "We are leaving," he said to someone, his tone pure command. Now, no one argued. In the elevator, I tried to speak. "I am fine," I whispered. My head felt like it was full of hot sand. "You are not fine," he said. He pressed the back of his hand to my forehead. His touch was cool and gentle. "You are burning up." At the penthouse, he did not send a maid or a nurse. He took me to my room himself, one arm around my waist, like he was afraid I would fall if he let go. "Bed," he said, not as a request, but as an order. Now, I was too tired to argue. I lay down, still in my dress, the room spinning. I heard drawers open, water running. Then his hand was on my forehead again, softer this time. A cold cloth, a glass at my lips. "Drink," he murmured. Slowly. For hours, I drifted in and out of sleep. Fever dreams mixed with bright flashes of his face. His voice, low and steady, telling me it was okay. The weight of his hand on my wrist, counting my pulse. The soft rustle of him moving the chair closer to my bed. At one point, I woke in the dark. The lamp beside my bed was on low. Henry sat in the chair next to me, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, eyes fixed on my face. "You are still here," I whispered. My throat hurt. "I canceled my surgeries," he said quietly. "You needed someone to watch you. You are a very expensive babysitter." I tried to joke, but my voice cracked. He reached out and brushed a damp strand of hair from my forehead. His fingers lingered for a second, tracing lightly along my temple in a slow, soothing motion. The touch was simple, gentle, not for show, not for anyone else, just for me. Something in my chest clenched, warm and painful at the same time. He seemed to realize what he was doing at the same moment I did. He pulled his hand back fast, like he had touched fire. His jaw tightened. His eyes went hard, not at me, but at himself. He stood up so quickly the chair scraped the floor. "Get some sleep," he said, his voice suddenly cold again. "You will feel better in the morning." Then he walked out, leaving the door half open, as if he wanted to make sure he could still hear me. I stared at the empty doorway, my heart racing for a reason that had nothing to do with the fever. I had just seen it. For one small, unguarded moment. In the way he touched my hair and looked at me, the careful wall behind his eyes had cracked. Dr. Henry Montgomery, the man who wrote a rule against love, the man who said emotions were dangerous, had just slipped. He cared. And if he cared, if he had even an inch of real feeling for me, then the most terrifying thing in our contract was no longer just a rule on a screen. It was a ticking bomb. After the fever broke, nothing went back to normal. On the outside, we slipped into the same routine. Events, dinners, board meetings, the act of the perfect couple. But inside, everything felt different. I had seen too much. I had seen the way he sat by my bed all night. I had felt his fingers move through my hair in that soft, careful way he probably did not even know he had in him. I had watched him run from his own feelings like they were a fire he could not put out. And I had felt something too. It was not a crush. It was not some silly dream. It was the way my chest warmed whenever I heard his key in the door. The way my day felt off if I did not hear his voice at least once. The way the penthouse felt empty when he was at the hospital late and I walked past his closed door. The one thing I had promised myself not to do was happening. I was falling in love with him. Hey, before I tell you what happened next, I want you to do one small thing for me. If you are still here with Emily and Henry, listening to their story, take a second to hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you are listening from. Your support means more than you know. Now, back to the story. A few weeks later, the bomb dropped. Not from us, but from the outside world. I was sitting at the kitchen island with a cup of coffee, scrolling on my phone, when I saw his name in a headline. The Ice Doctor. My life with a heartless genius underneath was a smaller line. Exclusive. Book excerpt by Catherine Sterling. His ex-wife. My stomach twisted. I clicked the article. The words on the screen made my skin crawl. She painted him as cold, cruel, empty. She called him a man without a heart, a man who cared more about his career than any human being. She twisted his late hours at the hospital into proof he did not care about anyone at home. She turned his quiet into something dark. None of it matched the man who had sat by my bed and checked my temperature every hour. None of it matched the man who watched my mother's test results like they were his own. The comments were even worse. People believed every word. Anger rose in me like a wave. Maybe he was hard. Maybe he made rules that hurt. Maybe he was scared. But he was not heartless. I found him in his study. The lights were off. He stood by the window, staring out at the city, a glass in his hand. The screen of his laptop glowed on the desk behind him, the article still open. "Henry," I said softly. He did not turn. "You should not be in here," he said, his voice low and rough. "It is not safe." "Safe?" I repeated. "Safe from what?" "From reading lies about you." He let out a short, humorless breath. "They are not all lies." "Yes, they are," I said, stepping closer. "She calls you empty." "You are not empty." He turned then. His eyes looked tired, hurt. "You do not know what I was like before," he said. "Before my father died. Before that marriage. Before I decided feelings were a problem I could not afford. I know what you are like now," I said. "I know the man who takes my mom's chart home to double-check it. I know the man who canceled surgeries to sit by my bed. The man in that article is not you." His jaw worked. "Why do you care so much what they say?" "Because it is about you," I said simply. "And because you care, even if you will not admit it." He looked at me for a long moment. Something in his eyes cracked. He put the glass down slowly, like his hands were suddenly heavy. "This is exactly why I made that clause," he said, his voice tight. "This, right here, this pain, this noise, this is what feelings do. They get in the way. They twist everything." "No," I said, my own voice shaking. "Pain comes from lies. She is lying. You are the one hiding from the truth." His eyes flared. "And what truth is that, Emily?" "That you are not some machine," I said. "That you feel things. That this whole marriage game stopped being just a game a long time ago." The air between us went still. He took one step toward me, then another. His hands curled at his sides like he was fighting himself. "This contract was supposed to keep us safe," he said quietly. "You were supposed to be a steady, smart woman I trusted, nothing more. I was supposed to be the man who fixed your problems and went on with his life. That was it. But," I whispered. His eyes searched mine like he was looking for something he had lost years ago. "But when you walked into that ballroom in that blue dress," he said, "everything I thought I wanted started to look wrong." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Henry," I breathed. He closed the last bit of space between us in one fast, rough move. His hands went to my face, his fingers trembling just a little. "I should send you away," he said, his voice breaking. "I should follow my own rules. I should push you out of my life before this gets worse." "You really think it is not already too late?" I whispered. For one long second, we just stood there, breathing the same air, our foreheads almost touching, the city lights floating around us like stars. Then he kissed me. It was not a soft, careful kiss. It was not for show. It was deep and hungry and full of every feeling he had tried to lock up. I kissed him back with everything I had been holding in. Him too. My heart ached, but there was something else under the pain now. Anger. "No," I said. He looked up, surprised. "This is not your choice. It is mine." I broke the rule. I walked toward him, each step steady. When I reached the desk, I put my hand over the screen so he had to look at me. "You are not the only one who broke the rule," I said. "You are not that special." His mouth twitched, but his eyes were still dark. "What are you talking about?" I took a breath so deep it hurt. This was it. The one thing the contract feared. The one thing I had tried to avoid. "I fell in love with you first," I said. Simple. Clear. No way to take it back. "I have been in love with you for weeks." His face went blank. Like his brain, the one that could hold a human life in his hands, could not compute that sentence. "Emily," he said slowly, "if we are following the rule exactly," I went on, my voice shaking but strong, "then I should have confessed first. I broke it too. So if you want to end the contract because somebody fell in love, You have to end it for both of us. You do not get to be the brave one and make all the choices. We are in the same mess." We stared at each other across the desk, the contract glowing between us like a small, cruel thing. "So now what?" I asked softly. "You fire me? Fire yourself? Take away my mom's care to punish both of us for having hearts?" He looked at the tablet, then at me, then at the tablet again. For once, the brilliant doctor had no answer. The next days were a blur. We moved around each other like two ghosts in a bright, clean cage. The contract felt like a third person in the house, watching everything. Finally, I packed a bag. He found me by the front door, my coat on, my hand on the handle. "I cannot stay here like this," I said quietly. "Not as your pretend wife. Not as your almost ex. I need to remember who I am without your rules." His throat bobbed as he swallowed. "Where will you go?" "Home," I said. "My real home. My mom is safe now. You made sure of that, and I will never stop being grateful. But this contract life is over, whether we sign something or not. I can't breathe in it anymore." He nodded slowly, as if each movement hurt. "I could fight you on this," he said. "I could order you to stay." "You could," I said. "But you will not." "No," he agreed. "I will not." I walked out of that glass tower with tears in my eyes and a weight in my chest. It felt like leaving a dream and waking up in a life I did not quite fit into anymore. Days passed, then a week. I went back to my old job at the diner. I slept in my twin bed. I made simple dinners with my mom. From the outside, everything looked like before. Inside, everything was different. Every time the bell over the diner door rang, my heart jumped. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was his name. It never was. One slow afternoon, I was wiping down the counter when the place went quiet. That same hush I knew too well. I turned. Henry stood in the doorway, no rich people around him this time. No tuxedo, no shield. Just a plain dark coat, his hair a little messy, his eyes searching until they found me. I walked around the counter, my heart pounding. He met me halfway. "I tore it up," he said without hello. "The contract. Every copy. I called my lawyers. There is no more clause. No more rules. No more pretend." "What about my mom?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "The trust for her care is permanent," he said. "Signed. Locked. No one can touch it. Not even me. You owe me nothing. You are free, Emily. Really free this time. You can walk away from me and live your life, and I will not take anything from you." He took a breath, his hands curling into fists like he was holding himself back from reaching for me. "I made you live under a condition that punished love," he said. "I will spend the rest of my life trying to do the opposite. I will never again ask you not to fall in love with me." Tears blurred my vision. "Then what are you asking?" He stepped closer, his voice rough and honest. "I am asking you to fall in love with me again," he said. "Without a contract. Without a time limit. Without fear that the truth will take everything away. I am asking you to choose me. Not because you have to. Because you want to." In that moment, the loudest thing in the room was my own heartbeat. I thought about the girl in the cheap blue dress, hiding by the flowers. I thought about the first time he said, "Pretend to be my wife." I thought about every touch, every almost, every time we had held back because of some line on a screen. I was done holding back. "I never stopped choosing you," I said. His eyes closed for a second, like my words hurt and healed at the same time. When he opened them, they were wet. "Then can I ask one more thing?" he whispered. "What?" I asked. "Will you be my wife?" he said. "For real this time? No pretending. No conditions. Just us." He pulled a small ring box from his pocket and opened it. The ring inside was simple and bright, not huge, not loud. It looked like something that would fit a real life, not just a ballroom. I laughed through my tears. "You know we already had a wedding in front of half of New York, right?" "That one was fake," he said. "I want the real one. I want vows that mean something. I want a life where the only rule is we do not run away when things get hard." My answer was easy. It had been sitting in my heart since the night he kissed my hand and called me darling for the first time. "Yes," I said. "Yes, Henry. I will marry you." He slipped the ring onto my finger. It felt right. My hand fit perfectly in his when he pulled me close and kissed me, soft this time, slow, a promise instead of a question. Later, in a small garden behind a little chapel, with my mom crying in the front row and his mother actually smiling for once, we said our vows. Not for a year. Not until the contract ends. For life. He did not whisper, "Pretend to be my wife" this time. He whispered, Thank you for being my wife. And I was no longer shocked by any condition, because there was only one now. We would tell the truth, even when it was scary. We would choose each other, even when it was hard. We would never again let fear write the rules of our hearts. And that, my dear listener, is how a fake promise with a cruel condition turned into a real love with no conditions at all. If you enjoyed Emily and Henry's story, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with someone who loves romantic stories. Thank you for listening and for spending this time with me.
If you felt good in this story, like, subscribe, and join me in the next one. Thank you.